Alright, this video is about how to factor trinomials when that lead coefficient a is equal to 1. As you can see in all of my example problems, the lead coefficient of the trinomial is 1. Now you're going to find, if you watched my previous video on how to factor any trinomial, that this is going to be a whole lot simpler and a whole lot faster. But we are still going to use this sort of 4-section area model. Okay, so we've got this expression b squared plus 8b plus 7, and we are going to sort of distribute that into these 4 regions as follows. The b squared, as usual, goes in the upper left. The constant 7 goes in the lower right, and that gives us 2 regions here that we need to fill up with the only thing we've got left, this 8b. And once we have those 2 regions, we will be able to figure out what lengths these 2 sides must be so that we can express the area of that rectangle as a product rather than as a sum. So, I need 2 numbers that multiply to make 7 and add to make positive 8. Well, this one's not so bad. The only things I can multiply together to make 7 is 1 times 7, and 1 plus 7 is indeed 8. So, in these 2 regions, and it doesn't matter which one's which, I can put 1b in this one, and I can put 7b in this one, and then you can look and do some division and see that the 2 sides are b plus 1 and b plus 7. So in the end, our area is b plus 1 times b plus 7, and that's our final answer. But don't take my word for it. You should always check your answers, especially on a problem as quick as this, relatively speaking. If I was to redistribute this back out, well, b times b is b squared, b times 7 is 7b, b times 1 is 1b, 1 times 7 is 7. Combining like terms, I've got b squared plus 8b plus 7, smiley face. You should always double check your work. Make sure that what you've got matches with what you want. Alright, problem number 2. Now, skipping the diagram, but continuing to use the same technique. I need 2 numbers that multiply to make 10 and add to make negative 11. Alright, well 10 is 1 times 10, and if I make both of those negative, negative 1 times negative 10 is positive 10, and negative 1 plus negative 10 is indeed negative 11. Now again, if we were doing the general trinomial formula, we would split the middle term and move forward from there, but because we have a equals 1, because this lead coefficient is 1, we have the luxury of just moving on straight to the final answer. N minus 1 times n minus 10. Example 3. We need 2 numbers that multiply to make negative 90 and add to make positive 1. Remember, there is a 1 there, it's just invisible. Alright, well 90 is 1 times 90. It's also 2 times 45. It's 3 times 30. It's 5 times 18. And it is 9 times 10. And if we make the 10 positive and the 9 negative, negative 9 times positive 10 is negative 90. And negative 9 plus 10 is positive 1. So our final answer is m minus 9 times m plus 10. Moving on. Number 4. We need 2 numbers that multiply to make negative 12 and add to make positive 4. Okay, well 12 is 1 times 12. It's also 2 times 6. It's also 3 times 4. We need one of these numbers to be positive and one of them to be negative to make negative 12. So I think that if we make positive 6 and negative 2 are 2 numbers, we do indeed add up to positive 4. So our final answer is n minus 2 times n plus 6. Two more. N squared minus 10n plus 9. I need two numbers that multiply to make positive 9 and add to make negative 10. Well, if you've been following along, you should be able to pretty quickly pick up negative 9 and negative 1. Negative 9 times negative 1 is positive 9. Negative 9 plus negative 1 is negative 10. So my answer is n minus 9 times n minus 1. Last one. B squared plus 16b plus 64. We need two numbers that multiply to make 64 and add to make 16. I believe the two numbers are 8 and 8. So our final answer is b plus 8 times b plus 8, better known as b plus 8 squared. If, by the way, you recognized this as a perfect square trinomial right off the bat and knew that it was b plus 8 squared, go ahead and use that information. That is a very important shortcut to have, and it'll help save you time.